guys, welcome back to my channel. I am your host, Nine Nicole, and I'm the host of the podcast One Strong Hand here on YouTube and also here on Spotify. Thank you for coming back to my channel, or if you're new to my channel, welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy your stay. So this episode today is going to be kind of a tie-in to the last episode I did, which was reframing your mindset for your mental health. And so this episode is titled 5 Mindset Shifts to Support Your Mental Well-Being. And I wanted to tie those in together because I think it's very important just to have some type of a chart or a guideline in order to assist in your well-being and your mental health. The 5 we're going to explore are learning emotional regulation, learning to ask for help, reframing failure, shifting from control to trust, and learning to be seen by yourself. Learning emotional regulation. This one has been difficult for me up until recently, where I had to learn how to think before reacting, or learning how to think before responding to certain things. And, of course, emotions are part of the human experience. We are here to have emotions and we are here to utilize them, but of course in ways that are conducive. And so I think when it comes to emotional regulation, a lot of people, or a lot of us, never learned how to process them in healthy ways. And so that stems from childhood. And so when we talk about inner child healing, I think we often forget inner teen healing, not just your child. Now, granted, teens are children, but we often forget that middle phase between child and adulthood when we talk about inner child healing and learning how to address your inner teen. A lot of our teens, we were filled with, little angst, or we were filled with just emotions all over the place, hormones all over the place, just a whole bunch of things in our teens that we have to learn how to address as well when we talk about inner child healing. Again, talking about how a lot of people never learn how to process their emotions in a way that is healthy. Again, stems from not only your inner child, but your inner teen. And so talking to your inner teen, I'm sure a lot of us dealt with depression or bullying or whatever the case may be when it comes to your inner teen. It's very important to address that when it comes to emotional regulation. Emotional regulation isn't just about avoiding your feelings, it isn't about avoiding your feelings, but it's about understanding and expressing them without being controlled by them. And so a lot of adults you see now, if they act out or there's a lot of crazy adults nowadays. There's a lot of crazy adults, and you often wonder, you don't have a lot of emotional regulation. And so a lot of people express their emotions, but they're controlled by them. And being controlled by your emotions means that you just act out. You're not pausing before reacting. You're not thinking before reacting. You're just doing. And so a lot of people are controlled by their emotions. And so again, just talking about pausing before reacting, naming your emotions, or practicing techniques like deep breathing or grounding exercises. And when it comes to naming your emotions, let's say if someone makes you angry and you just feel like you want to say something, what I have done in those moments, and of course not excusing anybody's behavior when it comes to how people treat you, but when it comes to my mental health and preserving my mental health, I have been learning how to take a step back and find where that emotion is coming from and why it's making me feel that type of way. Is it something they said? Is it something that they're doing? Whatever the case may be, I have learned how to identify my emotions, or at least I'm still learning how to, because I'm human, I'm not perfect, but I'm still learning how to identify my emotions. And so when people make me feel a certain way, and it's just like getting at me so much and I want to say something, I also remember that my health is way more important than whatever the heck I have to say to them, And so when it comes to naming my emotions, I name it, I figure out where it's coming from, I figure out why what it is that they did to me or what they said to me affects me in that way. And then I learned how to release it or use those emotions in a more conducive way. And a lot of people, they operate, especially like in relationships, some people operate in a way of, okay, if I have a disagreement with my partner, then I'll either just take a step back. It's like, okay, give me a moment to analyze these emotions, and we'll talk about it later. And so that's kind of what regulating emotions means. Is just when you're learning how to understand and express them, but without letting them control you in a way that makes you act out or treat people differently. How can we process those emotions to be more conducive so they're not sitting in your head and sitting in your body? Work through those emotions as opposed to affecting other people with my emotions. Number 2, learning to ask for help. That one is very difficult for me to do. As someone, now, of course, everyone or most people, I'm sure, deal with this when it comes to learning how to ask for help. It's very difficult. I feel like when I sometimes ask for help, and I'm still learning how to get past this. Of course, I've asked for help before. I like to ask questions, and whatnot, but there's a little piece of me that doesn't like asking for help because as someone with a disability, I have learned all of my life how to navigate and pivot and manage my ability, because in society, I'm looked as less than to when it comes to asking for help or learning to ask for help is the vulnerability aspect. And I talked about vulnerability in one of my other episodes. Is when you are vulnerable, you're allowing yourself to be open and allowing yourself to be free from any limitations that you've placed on yourself. When you're vulnerable with other people, you're not only putting trust in yourself to be open and to be honest, but you're putting trust in other people. And so that, I feel like, also adds on to learning how to ask for help, is also just learning to be vulnerable and learning to be okay with needing help. And it's okay to be, to need help. I think independence is valued, in our culture, but it can leave us isolated. And so that's what I have felt in my, past experiences up until recently, is that, if I don't learn to ask for help, I become hyper independent and feel like I don't need anybody. And so then that will leave me feeling isolated. So some things that I've asked myself is, what's one area where I'm carrying too much on my own, and who could I reach out to for support? And even, let's just say, if you don't have a lot of people to reach out to, there's groups that you can join, there's mentors, there's so many other aspects of ways that you can ask for help or get help from people. Find support groups, find groups that maybe align with your hobbies or your path, and meet people in those types of ways. Like, even if you feel like you don't have people, there's always going to be someone, and you just have to be able to look and know where to look. Number 3, reframing failure. So reframing failure is something that I have been learning because I used to be really hard on myself. Not saying that I don't do it from time to time. Again, I'm human. But I used to be really hard on myself when it comes to things I thought that I was going to be able to achieve by a certain age or do, by a certain time frame. And, failure, it could feel very heavy, especially when you feel that you have a lot of things that you're trying to accomplish, and if you don't accomplish them at those certain time frames or those certain ages or whatever the case may be, it could feel like you have fallen back. And I've talked about in previous episode how you're not on anybody's timeline or deadline. You're on your own time, you're on your own path, your own journey, and you shouldn't put a time frame on the things that you want to achieve. And if you don't achieve them at that time frame, don't be hard on yourself or think of yourself as a failure, because there are a lot of things that you're still learning through this process, some things that you still need to go through in order to get to that point of success, and that's okay. I think when it comes to failure, and the word failure, although it can be very heavy, it's often just feedback. And so it's like, if you don't get to something at a certain time frame, it's kind of allowing you to get feedback, like, okay, so how can I pivot, or how can I move forward now? Every mistake carries information. about what works, about what doesn't, and where growth is possible. And so when you make mistakes, or when you feel like you're failing or feel like you're a failure, there is information that lies in that. If you haven't made it by the time that you wanted to make it, because again, we like to put a timestamp on things when it doesn't need to be. Now, granted, of course, if you want to have goals, you want to have affirmations, that's totally fine. You can do that. But also allow yourself to have flexibility that if you don't get there, what's the next step to pivot? I think when I reframed failure or mistakes as learning, I think I felt less afraid to try new things. And when I try new things, it gives me an opportunity to not only learn more about myself, but I'm gathering information from my failures and my mistakes into what it is that I'm learning now with the new thing, and so it doesn't have to be like a due date to what it is that you're trying to achieve. Just learn how to pivot and learn how to maneuver. There's a lot of times in the past where I thought at a certain age I would have certain things, and it's like, okay, well, I think too, that's also society that has kind of brainwashed us into thinking that we need to do certain things. Now, again, we can have goals, we can have affirmations, we can have things that we want to do, but society has made a huge error when it comes to human individuality, because society has been made to make everything and everyone to be perfect. I may not have gotten to this certain point at the age that I wanted to, or the ways that look like success, maybe I didn't get, to that point. But now, what is this new information teaching me? And what can I take with me so I can realize the growth is possible and where growth is possible? Number 4, shifting from control to trust. I had to learn how to stop controlling things, or things that were out of my control, just to leave it as is. We don't have control over a lot of things. And so, of course, in our personal lives, there are some things that we have control over, but it's learning how to shift from control to trust, and trusting the universe, or trusting God, or trusting in whatever it is that you believe in. When it feels like you don't have control over things, trust that you're going to get to where you need to get to, but try not to control your process. You can work towards your process, but don't try to control outcomes of things that you know that you can't control. Shift into trust, and trust in ourselves, trust in timing, trust in life, even trying to gather some peace in the midst of something that you cannot control. It feels nerve-wracking, because it's like, okay, but how do I know this is actually going to work? How do I know that, I'm actually going to do X, Y, and Z? It's like, well, you don't know, but as long as you keep working towards it, forget about the control, because you don't have control over it. But as long as you keep working towards it and trust that things will align the way it's supposed to be. We as humans, we love to have like a blueprint for how we think things are supposed to go, and then when things don't go that way, we get upset. And it's like, well, you have to be willing and open to allow for life to create and carve a path for you. It may not look exactly the way that you thought it was going to be, because we think in just one straight line when life is just a zigzag. And so when you learn how to trust without learning, or when you learn to trust without having the control factor, you're understanding that life is going to be a zigzag, but it can bring you a little peace of mind knowing that if you are working towards what it is that you want and you trust the process, but you're also understanding that life is a zigzag. It's not going to be a straight line to what it is that you want. Number 5, learning to be seen by yourself. This one is a very big thing that I have learned over the course of some years. Is just learning how to be seen by myself. So much of our energy, goes into being validated, being understood, and being recognized by others. But while it's a natural human desire, it can also keep us disconnected from ourselves. It can make your growth feel invisible to you. And so learning how to be seen by yourself. Sometimes you don't need the validation. You don't need to be understood. You don't always need to be recognized by others. Now, granted, of course, it helps to have people in your corner, to talk to them and say, hey, do you think this is a good idea? And that's totally fine if you need like second opinions, but also learning how to just be seen by yourself, how to validate yourself, how to be understood by yourself. Not everyone is going to understand your path, your journey, who you are as a person. That's not for everyone to understand. And the people that do understand will naturally attract and align to you. Also, just learning that you don't need outside sources to validate your effort. When you become intertwined in your own journey and your path, and you start noticing your own effort, it actually becomes fulfilling, because it's like, well, I didn't have to ask anybody, when it came to my effort, or when, just because people didn't notice my effort, I knew what I had to do to get to this point. So I'm validated by that. And so just learning to be seen by yourself means to become your own witness. You are your witness. And if you know that you are doing things in your life to maximize your effort, to maximize your growth and your success, you are your own witness. And it's acknowledging your progress, your effort, your worth, even when no one else comments on it. So I think too, when it comes to my YouTube or, just podcasting, anything really, I've learned to not really pay attention to like the likes and subscribers and the comments, and it's amazing. It's great, when I see those things and when I see people interacting with me, but I don't take it to heart if it's like 0 comments, because eventually people will come in because they're aligned to what it is I have to say, or they're aligned to my journey, or whatever the case may be. But it's just learning that you are your own witness, you are your own audience. And it's okay, of course, again, to ask for second opinions, but you don't need the validation from other people. Validate yourself, learn how to validate yourself, learn how to be seen by yourself. You're in a relationship with yourself first and foremost, before your family, before your friends, before your partner. You are the most important relationship. And so when you respond to yourself like you are in a relationship with yourself, you then form this pattern of saying, you know what, I see you, I recognize you, and I validate you, but you're talking to yourself. And so just remember, like in those moments where you don't feel validated, or you feel like you're not being recognized by people, recognize yourself. You're a person in the shell. In the shell, you are a whole person. You are a person on the outside as much as you are on the inside. And so learn how to form that relationship with yourself, and learn how to see yourself for your efforts and for your growth. So of course, these shifts will not happen all at once, but even choosing one can ease the weight you carry and open new space for healing. Thank you so much for joining me for this reflection. And of course, as always, you already know what time it is. After every video, I pull an affirmation card, so you can take a nice little affirmation with you for the rest of your day and into your new week. So let me pull a card here. All right, new card for the day is Healing Relationships. With profound self-reflection and boundless compassion, I embark upon the healing journey of past relationships that have caused me pain. Liberating my spirit from the shackles of resentment, I shower forgiveness upon myself and others, basking in the radiant embrace of love and reconciliation. I really love these affirmation cards. When I bought these affirmation cards, I was like, this will be perfect to end my videos off on, because once I'm done talking and once I'm done lecturing and all this stuff, it's really nice to gather some information that I could take for myself. And I'm sure it's, nice that you can take this for yourself as well. So keep that in mind. And again, thank you so much for joining this week's episode of One Strong Hand. I truly appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Peace.